Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my video on why Magelocks and by extension the Reaver Culture are a lot more fun to play around with in the Mystic update for Age of Wonders 4. While I will be taking a look at a lot of in-game examples here, what I wanted to start off with is actually the brief overview that they actually posted on the Age of Wonders 4 forum for all the changes to the Reaver culture. We will take a much closer look at this in a few minutes. I just wanted to go over the fact that focused aggression is going to be working a lot differently than how it used to. It used to just boost every Reaver unit's damage output on units that had the marked stack, but now it's making it so that melee doesn't get the damage boost. They are actually able to apply the marked effect, which makes it a lot easier for your range attacks to land their attacks and be like the focus of your damage infliction versus the melee kind of becomes more of a support role with this effect. They also talked a little bit about how Magelocks are now no longer a full action and now are a single action. That's massive, and we'll show that off in a little bit in a few minutes. I just want to go over all the other brief changes before we dive into those specific examples. But this basically allows your sniper unit to act like a bit like a charge unit is something that runs forward and breaks the enemy's line or inflicts the first alpha strike before they can then turn into more of a sniper on their next attack. But that's not talk too much about that now. The base accuracy has been reduced from 90% to 60%. This still seems a little bit high to me because the take aim ability allows them to get 80% more, which means, reducing it by 30 means they're actually gaining 50 accuracy if they stand still, which is kind of what my impression was, how the Magelock was supposed to work, but maybe they wanted to change that up a little bit, make the Magelock a little bit more versatile because, well, they did get locked down a lot when they were using full action attacks as their only source of damage. Now, they also reduced the base damage from 36 to 34, which is it makes sense. It's a lot better now that it has breaching and that it's a lot easier to use. But if you compare that 34 to what like the crossbows do, it's still like really it's a lot. It's a lot of damage. It's really good. Take aim is changed from a single action to a full action continue. I don't remember what take aim used to do exactly, but I think it used to apply marked on targets that were far away from you. Yeah, it says no longer applies marked, instead granting 80% accuracy for one turn on the next attack. The Magelock cannons aren't very different, but their attacks are both now piercing and breaching. Now, what does that mean? We'll take a closer look at that soon, but I think it basically means breaching goes around resistance and piercing goes around armor, or it avoids 50% of it or something along those lines. Dragoon no longer has a cooldown on this shot and it's now breaching. The breaching aspect is really, really easy to miss because the fact that it no longer has a cooldown is massive. There's a lot of skirmisher units that have cooldowns attached to their attacks. The Inquisitor is one that comes to mind immediately, and that is because their ranged attack is very powerful. It's not supposed to be something you have access to all the time. I think the herring shot on the Dragoon without a cooldown is very powerful. But yeah, let's take a closer look at that stuff now. All right, so we're going to use this combat to go over a few of the details that I've talked about previously. Right now, this unit, he can get a pretty decent shot on this guy over here. He's only doing 28 damage with an 80% accuracy to hit. But if I were to try and apply marked through, I don't know, say this unit, which I think I had 100% accuracy to hit right here, then it should be easier for this guy to hit his 80% shot. Or I could try and leave it at 55, keep him a little bit further away from the enemies and safer that way. But I'm just going to go for the 100% here. And I want you to pay attention to the fact that this guy actually doesn't have that many low percentage shots to take, because when he's at his furthest range, he's only got minus 25% from long range penalty and I think he's getting extra accuracy from a trait that I took, so he's pretty accurate. That's I think Keen-Eyed plus Athletics makes a lot of sense for Reavers because that means that you can move really far and then still shoot with relatively good accuracy on your Mage Locks, but also on like your skirmishers and um, other units like that, like the heroes. So yeah, let's give this guy the 100% to hit. We want to make sure our mark actually goes through here, just to demonstrate what's going to happen if, yeah, we try to attack now. We do extra damage. We have higher chances to hit, and if we wanted to, we could have tried to use a melee strike to apply marked as well. Right there, it seems to indicate that this guy is going to get condemned and marked and sundered, I think. Is that right? No, I condemn and I can get marked and sundered for one reason or another. Oh, right, because this guy, he doesn't count as he's a summon, isn't he? He doesn't have the focused aggression tag on him right now. But if I say we're to go in with this guy, he should be able to apply marked. Yeah, he's got a 26% chance to apply marked. It's not very likely because this is a hero. Probably has pretty high status resistance. But yeah, that's focused aggression in a nutshell. We talked a little bit about how heroes are going to be really, really good with these items. We'll talk about how you can craft them once we get out of the combat. But while we're still here, let's showcase how this guy, he's got the heavy Mage Lock, which hits really, really hard, and you can move super far forward and get a really high damage attack from relatively far away. I think it's range 5 by default. I might have increased it by 1 using uh, a hero skill or something like that. I think, yeah, I took Eagle Eye on that to increase it by 1 more extra hex. And this guy's Mage Lock only is range 3, but the benefit of taking a pistol is that you're going to have a pretty decent ranged opportunity. Being able to hit 3-way isn't as good as 5 or 6 hexes away, but it is a ranged attack that you can use to engage people who aren't standing next to you, while you also have this melee strike who can engage people who are literally standing right next to you. The problem that the Mage Lock rifle has is if somebody stands on 2 sides of him, he's not going to be able to walk away and get away as easily. They may have a teleport or some other source of mobility like the sprint here, but generally speaking, the sword and pistol is going to be better in auto combat in most combats because it's got more ways to engage the enemy. Even though I really, really love the Mage Lock, at the heavy Mage Lock weapons damage potential, I love the piercing and I love the breaching. The ignoring the defenses and resistance means that this weapon's going to be able to deal a lot of damage all throughout the game, even once people start stacking a lot of defense and a lot of resistance on their units. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much why this is so good in a nutshell. Oh, right. And then if you wanted to, you can also take aim on this unit just like you would if you were using the Mage Lock unit. They have the ability on the heroes with the heavy Mage Lock just like they would on a regular Mage Lock unit. And this guy, yeah, he doesn't have take aim because he's got the melee strikes associated with him. I did already briefly mention that this change to the Dragoon's secondary attack makes the Dragoon a lot better. Not having a cooldown on this attack means that you're not going to have to wait a turn before you can go out and apply Distracted to your enemies, making them a lot easier to kill. And arguably, this is better than stunning a unit. Removing a unit from the battlefield means that you won't have to deal with them in the future, whereas stunning just means you won't have to deal with them this turn, and it means you can focus your actions on other units. So I feel like in a lot of ways the Dragoon's shot is maybe um, too good right now. And when you compare that to the Harrier having a cooldown of 1, I think a cooldown of 1 would make a lot of sense on the Dragoon's harrying shot. This thing is a very powerful skirmisher ranged attack, and I understand why you would want to put a cooldown on something that can immobilize things and mark things, making it easier for you to deal damage and making it harder for them to get into position to deal damage to you. One neat thing that they didn't list in the changes for Reavers, but was one of the changes that we got in the Mystic update, is now captured units like this unit will grant experience. As you can see here, I'm getting 5 experience on this unit, this unit, this unit, and this unit's getting 4. I think that has to do with the fact that I'm playing a champion, which means they get slightly more experience. But basically, this guy would be worth 4 experience, this guy would be worth 4, and this guy would be worth 6. So that would be 14 across 4 units, which should round up to, I think, this 5 experience we're seeing. Whereas if you just had 8 experience across these units, 8 divided by 4 is just 2 experience. So it's definitely more than just these 2 units, counting more than these 2 units towards the XP calculation. If you want to know more about the XP calculation, I did make a video on it that I'll try to link at this point in this video for you to go check out those details. But it is a little bit out of date. Some things have changed since I made that video. I'm not sure why, but for some reason I was remembering that this attack had a cooldown, and I think being able to hit units in a 3 hex line without a cooldown is actually very strong, and having this be as expensive as it is, costing 100 war spoils, actually makes more sense in my mind now. Because yeah, it's got very high utility. Being able to hit 3 units in a line means I can hit these 2. I can't hit all 3 of them right now because they're not all positioned in a straight line, but I can hit a lot of units and destroy stuff around them. Maybe there's like an obstacle or something that I want to get rid of, I want to remove so that my other guys can get a better approach. Or maybe I just want to cancel defense mode and retaliation on the right units to allow my guys to be able to approach to get the best potential damage they can. And I think in a lot of ways, this is actually just as good as the Dragoon, if not better. The Dragoon has more tools for if people get up close to it, like this melee strike, but I feel like the damage potential and the utility that you get out of the cannon should allow you to actually deal with enemies from further away, which is kind of like what the Reaver faction is all about. Another neat thing about what we're seeing on the stats here is that the cannon actually has a little bit more defense and same amount of resistance, a little bit more HP, and then if we go in here to natural resistances, this is just like, any biological unit, and this is like any old construct unit. And one neat thing that is actually very easy to miss and forget is the Reavers are one of the few cultures that actually have constructs in their natural lineup. They actually come with one in their T1, which is very interesting because it doesn't have an attack. It's a non-vital unit. If it's the only one in the fight, it's just dead. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about construct. It makes it so you're weak to lightning. This guy is going to be not so great against units that can deal lightning damage, so that is worth keeping in mind. Can't have control loss like Berserk or Dominated, which is very popular in the skirmish mod right now. So yeah, if you're trying to get immunities, the Magelock cannon is a pretty decent source of that. And then we did talk briefly about this guy. May as well show off the way his stuff work. He inflicts mark, makes it really easy for your range attacks to hit and do damage, and doesn't do anything for your melee attacks anymore. Alright, there was one last thing I wanted to prove, and that was that you can get the Magelock pistol and the Magelock rifle in the item forge regardless of what faction you're playing. So if you want to take advantage of the things I've been talking about in this video, you don't have to play Reaver. You just need to get to the item forge through either the Reclaimers start, or you can build it in your city after you've built your Town Hall 2. But yeah, without further ado, let's take a look at the things you can build in here. Just like you can build the Dragon Claws and the Eldritch Relics, even when you're not playing a dragon or an Eldritch Sovereign, you can come in here and you can click on the pistol, the one that is a melee strike and a 3 ranged attack. And then if you're really lucky, you might be able to extend the range through your infusions. I think there's one in here that, oh, it can turn it into a 3 hex line just like the cannon. Yeah, you can get +1 range if you have focus crystals. But generally speaking, this is very popular. People really like the melee strike and range attack on their hero units. So I think that one probably will be better in general than coming in here and trying to get the just the heavy Magelock. Right here says Magelock, but I think it's funny. I think it says, yeah, fire heavy Magelock, and then I think it's called like heavy Magelock in the in the actual list of items. But what I found really interesting about this is its range 5 does 34 damage, ignores 50% of armor and 50% of resistance, whereas this crossbow, it deals 24 damage, quite a bit less, and it doesn't bypass defense or resistance. The quick stab, I think, is something that you get access to if you've got a crossbow and a lot of the range tools. But I think in order to get around the fact that you're getting take aim and this weapon is just generally really good, they didn't give you the dagger ability on the fire heavy mage lock. But yeah, the other interesting thing here is this disables the mount, and you can have a mount with a crossbow. But that's pretty much everything I had for you in this video. I'll see you around. Have a good one.